In this problem, students will be able to rewrite expressions using the laws of exponents. And our problem here today is to rewrite the following expression in the most simplified form. Okay? So I'm going to take a little bit of notes on the right here, and I'm going to complete this problem here. And the first step into any of these problems is to expand if it's going to help. So expand exponential expressions. And how I'm going to do this, I'm going to be very careful about how I expand. I only want to expand things that are inside parentheses. So if I look at my problem here, I'm going to expand this quantity right here. 2x y to the third power, all raised to the third power. So my first step into rewriting is I'm going to keep everything else the same. So anything that I did not highlight here, I'm just going to rewrite. So 4x to the fourth. On bottom, on my denominator, I'm going to write 9x to the third times 4y to the ninth. And now I'm going to expand what I have highlighted here. And that outside exponent, the 3, is telling me I want whatever's inside multiplied by itself 3 times. So 2xy to the third times 2xy to the third times 2xy to the third. Okay. And again, I have 3 of these terms because the outside exponent told me. Okay. And my next step in these longer problems is to use the multiplication law. So we're going to use the multiplication law, and where I'm going to do that is anywhere where I am multiplying exponential expressions. So if I look at my problem here, I see on top, I see a lot of multiplying exponential expressions. So I'm going to use the multiplication law on top, on the numerator, as well as there's multiplication in the denominator, so I'm going to have to use it there as well. And I'm going to use our famous property in math, which is the commutative property. And the commutative property is going to allow me to rearrange the top of my fraction and then eventually the bottom. So I'm going to bring this equal sign down. And again, I'm going to keep my expression in the form of a fraction. And using the commutative law, I'm going to rearrange this top part to multiply all of the stuff that's similar. So I'm going to start with just the coefficients of the numbers. 4 times 2 times 2 times 2. 4 times 2 times 2 times 2. I multiply those. And now I'm going to multiply any base with x in it. So I see I have an x to the fourth power, x, x, and x. So I have 3 x's. And an important thing to remember is, even though I don't see an exponent, there is one there. It's a hidden 1. So I'm going to fill in my 1's there. And lastly, I'm going to take care of my y's on top. I see a y to the third, y to the third, y to the third, y to the third. And lastly, I'm going to rearrange the denominator, again putting the numbers there, 9 times 4. And then x to the third times y to the ninth. And now I'm going to use the multiplication law and simplify my problem. So I'm going to simplify, which basically means clean it up, make it neater, make it shorter, and we can do that pretty quickly. Let's see. 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 more is 16, times 2 more is 32. So multiplying the numbers on top, 4 times 2 times 2 gives me 32. Again, I'm going to keep my answer in a fraction here. And now I'm going to use the multiplication law, which says multiplying similar bases, what's the shortcut? Right, add the exponents. So x to the fourth times x times x times x gives us x to the 4, 5, 6, 7, x to the 7th power. And similarly, y to the third times y to the third times y to the third is just y to the 3 plus 3 plus 3, which is 9. And on bottom, I can't multiply these. Again, they're not similar bases, so I'm going to leave those alone. X to the third, y to the ninth. But I can multiply 9 and 4, which is just 36. And in my next part, I'm going to actually use the last law, the division law, to simplify my problem even more. So I'm going to use the division law. And how I'm going to use that is I'm going to use the division law to divide these similar bases. I'm going to use the division law to divide these similar bases, like so. Again, writing down what I don't use. And I'm breaking up my fraction here. And the division law says when I'm dividing similar bases, I subtract the exponents. X to the 7th divided by x to the 3rd gives us x to the 4th power. 7 minus 3 is 4. Over here, y to the 9th over y to the 9th. Well, I know that anything over itself is just 1. So y to the 9 minus 9 is y to the 0. Which we'll learn tomorrow is really just the number 1. Weird. Okay, so we divided these, we divided those. And lastly, what we're going to do is we are going to put this back in a fraction, and we're going to simplify our numbers if possible. And in this case it is possible, but not every problem will be. Simplify our numbers. So I know that 32 and 36 both have factors of 4, so I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 4. And I'm going to get my final answer. 32 divided by 4 is 8. Again, bring everything else down. X to the 4th, y to the 0. 36 divided by 4 is 9. And there's my final answer in the most simplified form. Now take a look at the key questions that's written on the smartboard and begin to discuss with your group the answers to those questions.